Let's talk about Henry Cavill's favorite little faction. Man, I wish I was his favorite little guy. The Custodians are the Space Marine chapter of Terra, as well as the Emperor of Mankind's. They were the most active as the Emperor's bodyguards during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. All of them are constructed like a miniature Primarch, all being alive since the Emperor of Mankind made his first batch, and all of them are demigods on the battlefield, who are now stationed on Terra inside the Imperial Palace. When the Emperor of Mankind realized it was about time for him to start getting humanity together under his banner, he needed a fighting force to help him out. So he made his first draft of Space Marines called the Thunder Warriors. These Thunder Warriors were genetically engineered citizens of Earth, now called Terra. They were put into 20 legions each, with all of them being hundreds strong. All these Thunder Warriors were giant, with even modern-day Space Marines being dwarfed by them. Usually Thunder Warriors used metal scraps and leather before they would later get their armor. They were so good at fighting that they even outdid the Custodians and other Space Marine chapters. They were awesome, but often unstable due to bloodlust and instability, suffering from physical and mental issues, so the Emperor did the only thing he could possibly do. He created the Custodians, and stopped making Thunder Warriors. He then rounded them all up and killed them all brutally, with the help of the Space Marines and Custodians, simply because they weren't what he was looking for. Some of the survivors tried to fight back and were killed. Others simply lived out the rest of their lives, their stories and victories erased by history, with them eventually wasting away, dying, forgotten by time. But then the Emperor made the Custodians! Like the Thunder Warriors, but good, and without any defects. They were slightly smaller, but more intellectual. They served as the Emperor's primary bodyguard, and currently roam the halls of the Imperial Palace, still protecting the Emperor in his great undeath. They have become very isolated from the outside world and only go out to do what might serve the greater Imperium and the Emperor himself, with each one of them being around for millennia, being made by the Emperor. When the Horus Heresy came to an end, it was originally stated that the Custodians abandoned their armor, and that's why we have this beautiful bit of community creation. Yep, this is my first direct JoJo's reference of the entire channel. I'm even going to keep a counter for how many times I do it. It's so you and I can keep myself in check. I'll try not to overdo it. In all actuality, the Custodians were so sad and depressed that they changed their red cloaks to black in mourning. And I don't mean to say that like they do it at the start of the day, I mean like they're sad. To mourn. Mourning. Because of the Emperor's dethronement. When Roboute Guilliman came back, revived and spry more than ever, they changed back to the classic red cloaks, to showcase their newfound hope for humanity. During the Age of Apostasy, the Custodians showed up to the end of the reign of Goj Vandire and talked to their bodyguards. The silver-tongued foxes that Custodians are simply just asked them to go to talk to the Emperor themselves, which later caused Vandire's bodyguards to turn against and kill him, ending the Age of Apostasy and allowing the Imperium to return to its baseline horribleness instead of the advanced horribleness it was in already. The Custodians are the best at what they do. Besides the Primarchs, of course. No Custodians fell to chaos. Not a single one of them took the call of the void. They were advisors for the Primarchs and partially the mouthpieces of the Emperor when the Emperor wasn't around. The Custodians also perform a ritual game called the Blood Games in the Imperial Palace. The game is having one Custodian become Sam Fisher and stealth around trying to evade capture and reach the Emperor. This was inspired by the time Alfarius, Primarch of the Alpha Legion, or Omegon, or one of them, broke into the Imperial Palace, and showed the Custodians how many gaps they had in their security, with him being able to show that he had the opportunity to kill the Emperor at one point. The Emperor put Alfarius up to it, though. This thoroughly embarrassed them so much that they still practice combat drills like that to this very day. The Imperial Palace has an Eldar webway portal as part of it. It was originally supposed to be used as part of a webway for mankind that the Emperor was making before the heresy started, so that they didn't have to use the warp for travel. It now just stands as a sad reminder of what could have been, until a group of Eldar stage performers came out of nowhere and started to tussle, by infiltrating the palace and killing everyone who tried to stop their peaceful mission towards the Golden Throne. The Custodians strike back, but the last surviving of these Harlequins politely asked them not to kill them. The Eldar then spilled the beans, said they wanted to talk to the Emperor himself about information that would help them win a war against the greatest Orc Wa ever seen, and the only Orc Wa that's ever gotten to Terra. Speaking about the Emperor, he's the closest thing to a Primarch the Custodians have. He's the original, the best, the template for all other Space Marines and Primarchs alike. He's got an interesting set of beliefs and a tragic backstory, and is a horrible person. In the beginning of mankind, demons plagued humanity. Their spiritual leaders during the time, called shamans, were powerful psychers who were in tune with the Imperium. But their powerful psyker brains made it so a bunch of demons would often attack them. The shamans, realizing this, decided to get all their brains together and created a mega baby. This baby was a reincarnation of all the previous shamans. He wasn't just poofed into existence though, he was born or removed like all of us. He was born in modern-day Turkey in 7000 before Common Era, and he was made to be the leader of humanity. He grew up in a society of herders and farmers, and had normal brothers and sisters and parents. With the psychic power he had in the womb, he became immortal, and his physiology adapted to him being impervious to assaults by demons. And as he grew in age, he grew stronger. Then he did nothing except watch over humanity for 38,000 years. He watched as humanity prospered, and he sometimes acted as a leader or an advisor. When humanity was in times of turmoil, he would become a crusader, religious leader, or messiah. He helped pave the way for better governments, crops, animal husbandry, and technology, just slightly shoving humanity into the path of progress from the sidelines, steering them in the right direction. The Emperor went across the globe and learned about many cultures, and he found something out. The Chaos Gods who had come into being during the rise of humanity would be worshipped unknowingly by humanity, who would pray to the Chaos God instead of whatever they thought they were actually praying to. This caused the Chaos Gods to grow in power. For this reason, the Emperor was against the idea of religion. So against it, he would kill people who believed in religion, especially when the Age of Strife happened. The Age of Strife caused humanity to become hopelessly splintered due to an artificial intelligence uprising. Over time, planets lived and died, and none of them had any communication with each other. The Emperor realized when this happened that humanity might need a little bit of restructuring to get back on its path of what he hoped to be the rulers of the galaxy. So he made a few Thunder Warriors, a few hundred that is, and conquered Earth. He then made Custodians, the Space Marines, and about 20 Primarchs, which were test tube babies that got thrown across the galaxy by chaos. He eventually recovered them all, and most of the ones that he brutally mentally abused turned on him, going over to the forces of chaos. One eventually wounded him before he erased him from existence, and he almost died on a throne made to serve humanity. And he's been slowly rotting away on that throne ever since. He does a lot of stuff between those few points though, but this is like a 10-minute video, and I don't want to make a video that's like 6 hours long, so maybe we'll talk more about the Emperor some other time. Since then, the Emperor has been on the throne for a good 10 millennia. Something's changed to the Empire man that the Emperor of Mankind brought to realization. Turned into a godlike figure to the people of the Imperium because one of his sons wrote a book where he explained the Emperor in divine means that the Emperor hated, and this book was flying off the shelves and got brought from the fiction to non-fiction part of the Barnes & Nobles that were everywhere. And it only took about 5,000 years for everybody in the Imperium man to become hopelessly entirely converted. The Emperor can't do anything about this except sit on his throne and watch in his undeath as his great vision crumbles and corrupts. Wah wah.
Did you say want want?
This did overall help the Emperor though. With people praying to him, he became stronger in the warp, even with his splintered soul in multiple different places. It also weakened the other gods due to them no longer accidentally being worshipped. The current acting leader of Custodians is the Chief Custodian, Trajan Valoris. He is a warrior and a leader that almost rivals the skills and powers of a Primarch. In his first decade, he upheld the traditions of the Custodians so well that he broke an all-time high score. He's just the coolest guy ever. He does have one thing that might be perceived as a weakness though, which is his aptitude towards being almost magnetically attracted to his enemies instead of sitting and waiting. With him only lasting 20 years in a more defensive position before the thought of fighting the enemies of mankind called him back into battle. In recent history, he has been fighting in the Indominus Crusade and fighting the powers of chaos above all else. The Custodians on Tabletop are a very small army, with them having high point costs, but being able to tank most hits from small arms and run through most things. The gear that they can use make themselves even more effective and work wonders. The one issue that the army has is that it's almost always outnumbered and doesn't have any chaff in their army to take points, so it's a very risky playstyle. Trajan on Tabletop is the most custodian. He's got high point costs with good tankiness, with only an alright movement stat. He can roll re-wounds for his fellow Custodians quite well, and do multiple different movement-based buffs. He can also make it so the Custodians can use different stances in battle to suit their situation, but he does cost a lot, which makes him a hard sell to bring in lower point games, with him kinda being a death sense. He and the army are still good, and one of the higher tier armies though. Good job guys, you cleaned it up well. Oh yeah, and they are also Henry Cavill's favorite faction to play. He collects them with all the money he got from playing as Superman. And that's the Custodians. What do you think about the Custodians? Do you like them? Do you hate them? I love them. I think they're the greatest ever. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have something you want to tell me, or want to tell me something I missed, or have a video request, make sure to tell me in the comments down below. Till next vid, fellas.